Welcome to ENT student for a discussion on medial pterygoid muscle. Medial pterygoid, if we take, it is a quadrilateral muscle which has to go from the base of the skull till the level of this angle and ramus of the mandible, that is the origin and insertion. And if you take the head wise, it has got a smaller superficial head and larger deep head. Smaller superficial head, larger deep head. Smaller superficial head, the origin is from maxillary tuberosity. The origin is from maxillary tuberosity, behind the maxilla, and also the pyramidal process of the palatine bone. Pyramidal process of the palatine bone. So maxillary tuberosity and pyramidal process of the palatine bone is a smaller head. It has to run downwards, backwards and laterally. Taking the larger head, the origin, lateral pterygoid you have got the two heads, and even in the medial pterygoid you have got the two heads, wherein small and large are superficial and deep in medial pterygoid. In lateral pterygoid they are upper and lower. So here it is small and large, superficial and deep. In medial pterygoid is upper and lower. Whereas if you take the larger head of the medial pterygoid, that is which is there as a deep head, it arises from the pterygoid fossa, that is in between the pterygoid plates, medial to the lateral pterygoid plate, and that is called as medial surface of the lateral pterygoid plate. And one more origin is the groove of the pyramidal process of the palatine bone. Groove of the pyramidal process of the palatine bone. Here also palatine bone was there, and here also palatine bone, but it is a groove of the pyramidal process of the palatine bone, that is a deep head of the medial pterygoid. They go downwards, backwards and laterally both. And if you take, this is the ramus of the mandible, this is the posterior inferior part of the angle of the mandible. So this is the angle of the mandible, this is the ramus of the mandible, this is the condyle. Lateral pterygoid were inserting into the condyle, but in medial pterygoid is inserting into the posterior inferior part of the angle of the mandible and ramus of the mandible. From where to where? Especially from the mandibular foramen level till the level of origin of mylohyoid groove. So this is the mylohyoid muscle, mylohyoid groove, and from here to here will be the insertion of this particular medial pterygoid muscle. Nerve supply is by means of nerve of medial pterygoid, which is a branch of main trunk of mandibular division of the trigeminal nerve. Branch of main trunk of mandibular division of the trigeminal nerve. Medial pterygoid as a whole, if you take, the action is elevator, that is closure of the mouth. Lateral pterygoid is opening of the mouth, this is closure of the mouth. Along with lateral pterygoid, medial pterygoid acts for protrusion and side to side movements. So individually they act one after the other, they cause side to side movements. If you take this as an understanding, so this is the condyloid process, and this is the coronoid process, and this is the body of this one, and this is the angle. So medial pterygoid is attached over here almost, and it helps in closure of the mouth. Closure of the mouth. This is the closure of the mouth, and along with lateral pterygoid, which is attached to the temporomandibular joint laterally and forming the articular disc, it helps in side to side movement and protrusion and retraction movement, protraction and retraction movements. And if you take the structure superficial and deep to it, above are the lingual nerve and inferior alveolar nerve and vein, and nerve and vessels. Inferior alveolar nerve and inferior alveolar vessels. Lingual nerve, inferior alveolar nerve and vessels. They are above, that is superficial to this medial pterygoid. Deep to this medial pterygoid are the palate muscles like levator palatini, tensor palatini, levator palatini, tensor palatini, and superior constrictor of pharynx, styloglossus and stylopharyngeus. Styloglossus and stylopharyngeus muscle. Thus, we understand the anatomy of this medial pterygoid muscle, which has got a superficial small head and deep large head. From maxillary tuberosity, pyramidal process of the palatine bone, and pterygoid fossa and groove from the pyramidal process of the palatine bone till the level of ramus of the mandible. At this angle and ramus junction, posterior inferior part of this. Thank you very much for watching ENT student.